Afternoon. Well, I guess we're live. So, what's up, everybody? I'm Dustin Coiner from TrackDaz here talking motorbikes tonight with Ken Hill. What is up, dude?
I'm back. I know you had me
Dude,
back, so I guess that's a good thing, right?
I mean, the fact that you came back, I was like, shit. All my 7 fans might be stoked.
Yeah, exact. Is it? Do you have 7 followers, or is it up that high now?
Yeah, it might be seven. 6 or 7, right?
Got it.
Yeah, so there's been a bunch of stuff going on. Obviously, you were at Barber a couple weeks ago, right?
Yep.
And looks like you're probably headed to Road America this weekend.
Plane leaves tomorrow morning. Yep.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. Well, there's been all sorts of commentary and controversy over what the hell happened at Barber. So I figured we just roll up the sleeves a bit and get into it, yeah?
Yeah. I'll tell you what, Barber, especially the last few years, Barber delivers. I mean, whether it's weather or drama, Barber delivers. And yeah, we were in full Barber mode this year for sure.
I mean, I was there. I was there a couple years ago when everybody crashed out a Superbike, but like still won. You know, and Matty Sculpt's doing the slip and slide thing down the straight.
It yeah, I mean, you just never know. You never know at Barber, right? I mean, we thought that we were going to have rain on Friday. Turned out to be decent weather on Friday, and then Saturday was literally minute by minute. You didn't know what you were doing, and it came down to, even during the red flags, like the wheels are off the bike, and you're like, we have 2 minutes, and I don't know what to put on.
Yeah,
So yeah, it was one of those situations.
yeah. Like I think one of the restarts, I saw Stefano Mesa looking around, and like everyone else had slicks, and he had reins on, and he was looking around like, shit, dude. Like, what did I do?
Oh yeah.
But like whatever happened, and he ended up sorting it out, and he was still where he was kind of supposed to be, right? So
Yeah, I mean there's just a lot to unpack. Whether it's obviously we can talk about Superbike, Supersport,
yeah,
any drama. The tires were an issue as well. The weather was
yeah,
an issue. There was a lot going on. So you
yeah. Let's
tell me
let's
what you
talk.
want to talk about.
Okay, well, I mean, look, everybody saw what they saw with the races, and fuck, if we spoil it, dude, you've had plenty of time to watch the
Exactly.
race. Okay,
Sorry. Yeah.
so yeah, like sorry, but not really. It's 2 weeks have gone by. What the fuck's wrong with you? Yeah, so let's talk about it. Like there was some weird stuff with, the super sport race was a little bit longer than normal, but then kind of not because of all the red flags. So, um, once you once you go there, because you had a couple of guys in your pit
Yeah.
already.
So I mean we were knee deep in we were knee deep in the super sport race, and yeah, I mean it was the extended race, and we felt fairly well prepared. Except I completely screwed up. I made a mistake when it came to prep. And the mistake that I made is we did not have front quick change.
Oh
We
shit.
were we well I completely overlooked the barber factor. So we had rear quick change, and Kyle, Kyle Alexander from Northeast had set us up well. Obviously we had the tanks, but I didn't put front quick change on the list because I thought, why are we gonna need front quick change? Front tire will go the whole race. And then about a week before the event, I went, son of a bitch, I screwed up. And we just were going to have to deal with it however we were going to have to deal with it.
Yeah.
And that's the way it goes. So yeah, I mean, we got there. We had a pretty decent FP1. It was okay for both riders. We made big fundamental changes on both bikes for Q1. Both riders queued very, very well. So that part of it was we were very happy with that. We had an issue with tires for sure. Obviously we're still exploring what's going on with the tires. We know Barber's abrasive, but the tires we knew the tires were going to be a factor, and they were a factor.
Yeah, I would imagine.
So yeah, I mean, we started off running what was the harder option, and it didn't make it halfway really through FP1. And typically what we do is we run the same rear through that session. We want to get some mileage. We want to see what's going on. We want to be able to save stickers, so we run the same front tire all day Friday, and that
Right.
gives us options on Saturday and Sunday. It gives us an extra sticker, and we know that the front tires they're amazing, right? They're amazing, but
You gotta like change them when you're sick of looking at them, basically,
that's
right?
pretty much it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everybody wants to change them, and you don't really need to change them that much. And so then in Q, we tried the softer version, and they didn't go very many laps. And then for Q2, we tried a hard and a soft because we wanted to. Honestly, it was a lap time comparison. We knew that we were going to have to make a decision for the race, and our warm up, or I'm sorry, our Q2 was a little bit later in the morning. And at that point, we still weren't sure on weather, but we wanted to see if the harder option tire would give us the lap time. If it gave us the lap time, then that would become a viable race option for us. But the lap time was close, but the feel wasn't what the riders wanted.
Right.
So we knew that we were going to be in a situation where we knew we were going to have wear issues. And depending on how long the stint was going to be, we were going to run the soft tire, and then the rider was going to have to do their job for 6 or 7 laps at the end.
Right.
So, yeah. So a little bit of tire drama, messing around with pressures and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, we got through it.
Well, I mean, my involvement with that team, that other team, with their blue,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
There's something that he said at Daytona, and he said it many times. I've heard him say it. Richard Stampoli, I'm talking about Attack Yamaha. Um, I've actually heard him having several different heated conversations with Corn Dog, and basically it was about whether or not to change the front. And Richard's like, dude, it takes us this long to fill up with gas anyway. Might as well change the front too. And he's always been that way. Like, even though the front tire could go to just, go longer, he's just like, dude, it takes that much time to put fuel in anyway. Might as well do the front. So I don't know. Maybe you didn't have him in your corner,
Well, we didn't have quick change. We didn't have an option. But I mean, honestly, if we had the option, I probably would have taken advantage of it because
Yeah.
the guys did, and I mean, all the guys in our under the tent did a great job, and we were actually. We should talk about the minimum pit time as well.
Yeah, dude.
So,
But really
so
quick, I just want to like do like a quick roll call. I do have Julie Brave Nation watching, and Kurt Erlinger or
yep,
Erlinger.
yeah, this weekend, yeah.
Yeah, and then no shit, Davy Stone. Do you know that guy? Like, would you remember Davey?
That is a blast from the past.
Bro, like
Yeah,
I had a
yeah.
conversation with Davey a couple days ago, and the dude is like
What the
this
hell?
close to being like all in again. And I'm just like, my mind is blown right now. Like, for those of you who don't know who this guy is, like, he used to terrorize the CCS Southwest area. He's out of Arizona, so he was like this dude, and he had this online forum called the All Stone Army. Do you remember that?
Now that you mention that, yes,
Do you remember
correct.
the T-shirts that he was selling for Airfin Spun shit that said "I hate Davy Stone" on them?
Oh my God. Ah.
Oh
Well,
man, the
I mean,
dude is
the bottom
legend.
line is, I mean, I know people talk shit, but the bottom line is the guy could ride.
Yeah, dude.
So
He
yeah,
says he's like a cockroach, so
yeah, we'll
that's
go away.
funny.
Well, but honestly, that is a little bit of a sidebar. Is that's our sport, right? Which is go find something else that's as bitching as this. There's not. Period.
There's nothing.
I got a text from my Top Gun guy last week. When can I ride? Right? I mean, this is how it is, right?
Right.
There's very few things in life that are as bitching as this.
I mean, and Davey legit could ride. Like, I think he did a
No,
lot of it.
no,
He
hundred
did
percent,
nationals. Like, the
100%.
dude was privateer national guy. And he always had like super well prepared motorcycles,
Yep.
and he was also he was one of those dudes that like didn't take himself too serious. So like it looked like he was having a good time. And man, like I mean, I've got many Davey Stone stories. Like,
Yeah, well, I mean, he
yeah,
would talk shit and people would talk shit
yeah,
about him, but the bottom line is the guy could ride a motorcycle.
yeah,
So that's
totally.
all there is to it.
Yeah, but yeah, it's kind of neat having him watch this because I'm like, dude, I think when I met him, I was still in my early 30s, maybe. So Like I didn't
Yeah.
really know that
We're
guy
not, yeah,
that, but yeah,
gotta go for
well,
me.
I'm not anymore, clearly,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, let's talk about what you were saying before about the
Yeah, so to finish
minimum.
up
The
the tire situation ended up, I mean, we'll get into the kind of the race and how it unfolded.
Yeah,
But we did struggle a little bit figuring it out, but we just committed to using the softs. We committed to a little bit of a different tire pressure, and the bottom line, it worked great. So I mean, you at some point you have to make a decision, live with that decision, and take advantage of it, and that's just what you do. And
yeah,
that's how we approached it. So yeah, the extended race was going to be 37 laps, and so you had to break it up. You had to pit stop, I think, before lap. I don't remember what it was.
18, right?
No,
Wasn't it
23.
23? Okay.
23. You had to be in
I think it
before
was
that.
18 when they restarted, right?
Yeah, you could change tires during a red flag.
Yeah,
If you came in, but you still, even if you had fuel and tires, and that was your pit stop during a red flag, you still had to come in and do a pit stop. So,
right.
I mean, the bottom line is you had to do a pit stop, and the pit stops had a minimum time. So MotoAmerica set up an extended hot pit or extended pit lane with a limiter. It was a little bit longer. So they had basically worked it out that the pit stop needed to be 55 seconds, I think was the time.
Yeah,
And so by the time you went in, by the time you went out, and it still required, if you rolled through on on your pit lane limiter, you still had to stop for 10 seconds. That's how it worked out.
right.
So our stop, when we did our real pit stop with fuel and a rear tire, we were at about 10 seconds. So not slow, not fast. But that way, if somebody came in for a splash, then they'd be under the time. So a bunch of little stuff to figure out and work out, and it went okay.
Dude, I saw some teams, they look like they were doing better than others in that. Like, you can see they're in the pits, and it's like, okay, dude, they've reached 2 minutes.
Executing perfect fundamentals under stress. Some people did not do that.
And.
Yeah. Again, I'm beyond blessed to have the crew that we have. These guys they joke around a little bit, but in a good way, but they are as competitive and driven as anybody. And the guys are amazing. And I'm blessed to have these guys around us. So yeah. So basically the way the race unfolded was, we start off as a dry race, and it starts off as dry.
And for those that don't know, you're working for the team
Northeast Cycle Outlet. Yeah, Northeast Cycle Outlet. CJ LaRoche and Anthony Mazziotto.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah.
So people know what the F I'm.
The tree trimmer and the kid with the long hair and the tattoos.
That doesn't have long hair anymore.
He doesn't. He cut his hair. Oh, that's right. Okay.
A lot. Yeah. A lot.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
he's starting to look like himself again, except for the tattoos on his hands. I was like, kid,
all he needs
what
is
are you doing?
his buddy Holly glasses again, and he's good to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, both guys are just an absolute joy to be around, and there's been some really great things happening under the tent. So,
yeah.
So the race starts off, and then we get a red flag. It's wet, so now we're waiting around, and so it rains, and the track is wet. Everybody's panicking. We're swapping front and rear wheels, and then as they give us the horn for 5 minutes, the track is drying. And it's typical Barber, right? So you're like, what do you do?
Yeah.
And it wasn't when I watched the safety car go by with about 2 minutes left, and I saw the spray. I'm like, we're going wets. And of course, you can kind of see what everybody else is doing as well.
Yeah.
So we did wets because that's what the majority was doing. We also saw the spray. We knew we were going to have to do a pit stop, and at that point, we were prepared to do a front if we needed to do a front. And so basically the race goes on. They start. Maz gets a rip and start. CJ gets a rip and start. And Maz is in P3. CJ's in P4. CJ falls down on the exit of 5. So crap. So CJ runs over, picks up his bike. And by the time he gets back on his bike and gets going, red flag.
Right.
So then, a little bit of a shit show there. And everybody's coming in. Luckily, CJ's bike only needed very small things. He was fine. Yeah. And at that point, we knew we needed to go back to dries. So we went back to dries. And then we had another restart. CJ got, booted back a few rows, obviously. And Maz got another rip and start. And it ended up where Maz got P3 and CJ got P8. kind of a weird thing on CJ's time. We haven't quite figured out, but yeah, it basically got P8, and yeah, we're stoked for it.
Well, I mean, he is that his highest finish nationally yet, or
No, we had a little bit of a higher finish in the rain before, but yeah, I mean, basically it being dry, that was for us. That was the highest finish and best qualifying for CJ as well. Third row qualifying for us, which, I mean, people look at improvement in the sport, and for CJ, I mean, he's been making incremental improvements every year. Well, we
for
went
like a decade? Like
well,
I've been watching that guy since my first day at champ school in like
well.
what
I mean, we
13?
went, we went. I mean, he is already fast last year. I mean, the bottom line, anybody that can run top 10 in MotoAmerica is effing fast.
Right.
But yeah, we were 1.6 seconds faster than last year in Q. 1.6, right? And we're less than 2 seconds off pole when they broke the track record. So we're very, very happy with that. Yeah, he's doing great. And then Maz, Maz was Maz was definitely having some issues in Q. Just trying to figure things out and the tire situation and going through setup. And we had a nice little chat. And yeah, the bottom line is he was able to get the job done. And yeah, get on the box in MotoAmerica is a big deal.
So the tires, going back to the tires, I know that the Superbikes, was supposed to be the first race. Both races were supposed to be 20 laps, and for whatever reason, they didn't think that based on the temperature that the tires would go that, so they shortened it to I think 16.
16.
So, I mean, is that the kind of issues with the tires that you guys were having in that, or was it more of like the rain thing?
No, no, no. I mean, regardless, they weren't shortening our race, which I'm fine with, right? I personally, I mean, I understand the Superbike thing, but whether the tire's torn on lap 14 or the tire's torn on lap 20,
Right,
whatever. I
right,
mean, I think it's the rider's job to ride it, and they got to figure it out.
right. Hmm.
So I think that in our case, yeah, it was a little bit crazy because we had our first set of tires. We had our first set of tires for the first stint. Then we had our rain tires. Then we had a second stint, and then we had our pit stop. So I don't know. We had 5 rear wheels, and I think we had 3 front wheels for just a little super sport effort. So there was definitely a lot going on. But yeah, we ran the last stint was a very normal stint, meaning I think it was a 22 lap restart. And so we knew that we were going to have to come in and we had to fulfill our pit stop.
Yeah.
And we had to change a tire. So yeah. And all those guys did it. I know Josh Hayes and some of the M4 guys, they actually went out on the dry restart on rains.
Yeah.
Did 1 lap, came in, and then they were going to do the last stint on the same tank and the same tires. So that was a bit of an interesting strategy, but that's what they wanted to do. So great.
Well, I mean, like Stefano and Flores kind of just stayed out there for a long time, and then after I think at like probably lap 18, right? They came in and
Yeah,
you know,
normal strategy. I know I know Yavi, I think he had the harder compound, I think the first run, and the softer compound the second run. There was a lot of strategy where people were
yeah,
going to run the harder one and the softer one. And bottom line is, I mean, obviously we know that guy can ride a motorcycle, and it didn't matter that much for lap times for him.
right.
That's why you saw Stefano drop back a little bit as his tire went off, and he just didn't have
Yeah.
the leadership to deal with it.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy to see Mazziotto on the box. So I was like, good for you guys, man. Like how
I
was
think
that? How was the vibe in your pit after that?
it was pretty epic. I mean, having Maz on the team. I mean, I trained with Maz years ago, back in the Junior Cup days, and when he went to Red Bull, and I'm a huge Anthony fan, and Anthony's coming back to a more structured way of doing things. And there's a little bit of a learning curve when it comes to that. And he
Yeah.
really wants to improve. And I knew, I mean, I've predicted Maz would get on the box at least a couple of times this year. And for him to do it right out of the gate is fantastic. And
Yeah.
the side of the tent is very focused, and they've got, they got a great process going, and they're trying to build a process as a team. And the fact that Anthony was, he was a little bit stressed out about the tire situation. We chatted about it, showed him some data, showed him lap time data,
Yeah.
and realized, yeah, it's the same for everyone. And, Anthony, just because your tire's off doesn't mean you don't know how to ride a motorcycle. And yeah, the bottom line is the guy got the job done. So very impressive.
Yeah, I mean, been watching that guy obviously since that early days that I started working with Champ School, and watching him work at it and work at it. Even at lunchtime, everybody else is kind of like doing the video breakdown stuff or whatever, and he was burning laps on his race
Yep.
bike during
Yep.
lunch instead.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the boy can ride a motorcycle. I mean, both those guys can. Anytime you're at that level, you can ride a motorcycle. And so, for them, yeah, I mean, there's obviously challenges where, even though if the rider can ride, but the team's got to be able to give him a motorcycle to ride and a strategy to ride. So
right.
it's all of those things that work together. And yeah, I mean, the bottom line is they've stepped up pretty big.
Well, he's got the desire too. That's the desire, the consistency, all that, all those like key things that, you know,
Yes.
yeah. So like it's good. It's pretty cool seeing that dude progress like he has, and having you guys have have one of the riders on the team end up on the box. It's got to be pretty cool.
To your point, it was a very good vibe. And, again, just to give props to CJ as well, for him to be that far up, a solid top 10. And when you think about it, for us, it was actually 2 8th places. For Mazziotto, it was 2 3rd places because there was double points.
Right.
So it was a fantastic effort. And the way, again, the whole team worked
Yeah.
it was a complete team effort on both sides. So yeah, it was not only the riders did their job, but the team did their job. And that was fantastic.
So how about race 2?
We didn't have a race 2. Supersport was one extended
Oh,
race.
it was just one. Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, what am I? Yeah. Okay.
We can talk Superbike though.
Yeah. Let's talk about Superbike. But
Yeah,
you know what?
Supersport was great. And like I said, the extended race,
Yeah.
so many different strategies that went on.
Yeah.
We can't wait for Laguna. Laguna's the next one, and I can't wait.
Yeah. So how about before we dig into Superbike, there was something that I saw, and everybody saw actually in multiple classes. It started with the Twins Cup race, but it carried into the Supersport race a little bit. The quote unquote actively competing thing.
Yep.
And because I was going to talk to Richard the last week, right? Was it last week? Yeah. I don't know.
Had to be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
2 weeks ago.
Yep.
Yeah.
Something like that.
It all blends in, bro.
Right now, we're on the rev limiter now through
Yeah.
like August. So
Yeah, dude, I hear you. Yeah, so I knew I was going to talk to Richard, so I reached out to Chuck Axland that Monday, and I was like, "Hey, man, what the fuck happened?" Right? And dude, that guy is really switched on, and he actually responded to me within like 30 seconds, and I'm like, "Dude, who the fuck am I?" First of all, I'm just like this track day dummy out of SoCal, and he's like responding to me. But it was some pretty interesting stuff that he said. But then also I ended up speaking on the phone with Nicole Cox to further elaborate on this stuff because, Chuck's kind of the boss, right? So Chuck's kind of given me the summary of what happened, whereas Nicole was in on it. So it was pretty interesting stuff. But basically, Chuck was like, look, we ruled the way we did because, I mean, everybody's seen the multiple podcasts, I'm sure, about it, but he's basically like, he's like, look, there's a reason why riders were not allowed to continue, and I think it dates back to, the heroes of the 90s basically doing stupid shit to try to draw a red flag. But what's interesting is like I don't remember them enforcing this rule for any other reason, like usually if somebody falls down, they could pick the thing back up and make, if they can make the repairs, they can make the grid, right? And I don't know, it just seemed like that was the first time I'd ever seen that applied that particular way. Is that
yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't recall that ever being used in another way. And for whatever reason, that's on their radar for some reason. Yeah, I don't know. But going back a little bit is, yeah, I'm a big Chuck fan. You're right. He's completely switched on. His resume is insanely impressive.
the dude's a legend. Like, I mean,
he is.
Yeah.
He's actually like motorcycle racing history.
Yeah.
And that combined with you've got Nicole, massive experience. You've got Rick Hobbs. I mean Rick
Yeah.
Hobbs. I mean, come
Yeah,
on.
dude.
So I do default to their judgment being good and based on the
Yeah.
information that they have. Now, understand that managing motorcycle races is not a simple task, right? It's
Shut
not a
up.
pretty it's
You're
not a
bullshitting.
it's not a bowl, yeah, it's not a freaking bowl of cherries, right?
Yeah.
It's tough and it's dynamic and there's a lot of stuff going on and they're
Yeah.
doing things the best of their knowledge. From what I have heard, were there mistakes made? Yeah, there was.
Yeah.
But was anything obviously malicious or it was anything
Absolutely
done?
not.
Yeah, correct. So yeah, unfortunately, shit happens. I've been the victim of calls like that as well on a team.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's you can Monday morning quarterback it all day long. It's
Yeah.
really difficult. It sucks for some of the people, but unfortunately, that's what we have to deal with.
Well, I mean, even the best people are still people, and people make mistakes sometimes. Like,
Yep.
right? So, I mean, it's really easy if you're one of the victims of that. And I know the rodeos. I've spoken to Kevin Rodeo and some of their support people, and it's super bummed for the kid because I mean, it seemed like he did arguably what he's supposed to do. He would think, but then they say they ruled that way because of whatever, and that's that. But there was a couple other people that were allowed to continue, and some weren't. And Nicole basically told me straight up. She's like, "Look, we fucked up." She's like,
Yeah. There, again,
and they fucked up because because I guess the rulings that they made were based on the numbers that they were listed off from course control, and they're like, okay, this guy, and they Nicole said between her and Rick, they were reviewing the footage, right, to based on those particular numbers that were reported to them, and it was only after the restart thing where they're like, wait a minute, these 200 guys should have been bounced too.
yeah, I mean, we're
So
talking there's minutes to
yeah,
make these decisions, right?
yeah,
And again, in real time, these are
yeah,
insanely difficult things to do.
yeah,
And to be clear, I've been in a similar situation at the rodeos, and yeah, I want to throw my freaking clipboard,
yeah,
at whoever the closest official is.
right.
I get it, but you also have to realize that they're doing the best they can with the information that they have, and it's not fun, but
Right,
that's right.
right. And I mean, there was the other one was the Nisani thing in Supersport. And from what I understand about that, I'd have to dig further into the rules about that, but I guess he tossed it on the warm-up lap. So, the red flag comes out and I guess he had kind of a yard sale going, like his dash and stuff was like still on track and that kind of stuff. So, they came in and race direction basically said, "Hey, no go," but they went anyway. So that's why they got yanked. You know, but like I've heard from them, they're like, "No, no, we were following the corner workers' orders." So like there's been quite a discussion about some of the overzealous corner worker types. And Stamboli actually referred to something from 2018 when Heron was riding for the team, and he had that crash in the corkscrew, and he basically got in trouble for batting the corner worker's arm off
Oh,
his
right,
bike.
yeah.
He's like, dude, get away from me. Let me come back to the pit so I could swap a bar. Like and they were trying to stop him, and it's like maybe they shouldn't. So, I don't exactly know the details in on that, and I'd like to think that Chuck and the gang are on it. You know.
If I know them, the way that I know them, they're also going to work on this and improve. I mean, there's no question.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it seems the thing is like the peanut gallery, if you will, wants to spend a lot of time shitting on the series, and I mean,
I mean, do you really think it's any different than MotoGP or World Superbike? You don't
no,
think they
man.
have issues like this? Come on, right? Of course they do.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, it's hard to talk about the issues like that in those other series because a lot of the times the fans are shielded from some of it. But I mean, even at Portugal last year, like we were standing around in the pits when the Supersport 300 red flag thing happened, And dude, we're standing out there forever, like wondering what the fuck's gonna happen. Are we gonna get to race? I don't know. Like, and nobody knew, right? Like the communication wasn't
Yep. It's
stellar,
yeah.
even in that
Again,
paddock. You know what I mean? So
yeah. That's what I'm saying. You know, whether it's MotoGP or World Superbike, there's always going to be issues. And again, it's not obviously as easy as everybody thinks it is. But
yeah,
I mean, again, the best thing that you can do is have productive conversations
yeah.
and try to make it better. I mean, just yeah, it sucks for some
Well,
of the people.
that's the one thing I respect them more about because Nicole, Nicole's part of race direction at that point, right? Like she's the MotoAmerica liaison or whatever, but
Mhm.
then there's Rick Hobbs and this one other character, I forget what his name is. But the other character was outside, and so the two inside were Rick and Nicole. But I was like, Nicole, what the fuck are you guys gonna do to ensure that that doesn't happen again? And so she had some pretty interesting things to say about that. She was saying that there were gonna there was gonna be maybe another person in timing and scoring to kind of track who, like kind of like a manual scoring thing, so they knew if a person crossed the
Yeah.
beacon, basically, right, or the timing loop or whatever, right, sector, right. But
Yep.
then also she said possibly in the future they could go to and like maybe require everybody to get the next level up of transponder. Like in World Superbike, the transponder has crash sensors on it and GPS stuff to where they would know exactly where the riders are,
Oh yeah,
depending.
on track. Yeah,
Yeah.
on track the whole
And they're
time.
like, oh, the rider crash sensor went off in sector 3 or whatever, and they would know exactly where the person was, and that would never be an issue again as
Yeah.
far as that goes. So they're actively trying to ensure that something like that doesn't happen again.
Yeah, yeah. Again, I mean, none of this is perfect, and I think the lesson is, look, yeah, shit happens.
Yeah.
They're going to do the best to make sure that as they learn new information, they're going to try to fix it, and I think that's all you can do.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about Superbike a little bit. What did you think?
I mean, I thought it was great. I mean, and I thought it was great mainly because we were going to such an opposite situation from Road Atlanta, right? It's
Right.
completely opposite. Where here we got a bunch of stop and go, stop and go with a gigantic dyno pull down the back straight, and now we're going to a place where I don't know how many. It'd be interesting to ask Richard how much time at full throttle the super bikes are. It's not a lot,
Probably
and
not. Yeah.
yeah, so you're going to two on the side of the tire a lot more. And so we were kind of seeing the two opposites of what was going on.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, watching it, I don't get a ton of chance to watch Q or FP, FP in real time.
Yeah.
Typically, when I go back to the hotel after looking at data, I'll try to sneak in a little bit of time on MotoAmerica Live. But yeah, it was super interesting and in watching what was going on. I know Camby was back a little bit, but also just see like in race 1, but race 2, Sunday morning warm up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he ripped it in Sunday morning warm up, and I'm thinking, oh, right, they found a little bit of something. So, and of course with Jake in his arms, right, you just don't know. Nobody sort of knew how that was going to
Right.
be. So yeah, there was just a lot of dynamics. The tires were an issue as well. Yeah, I mean, and also we know how fast Skoltz can be there.
Yeah.
And same thing with Cam P, right? I mean, how fast was he there on the stock 1000 bike? Holy smokes!
Right.
So yeah, a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, Cam had a little bit of an off there. Um, obviously didn't finish race 2, but he was, P2 in race 1,
Yep.
and he was right there. Like, I think in qualifying, it was just those 3 that were in the 22s, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. Yep. Yep.
So, and it was interesting to see, how the arguably faster down the straight bikes were able to go at that track. And one thing I did notice is that, I mean, the BMWs still looked pretty good, both of them. I don't really count Corey Alexander's bike as the same as
No,
PJ.
and PJ was getting after it. I mean,
Yeah,
that's the
PJ
bottom
was,
line.
dude, PJ was getting some,
Big time.
Cam Bobia was getting some. and their bikes actually looked good coming off the corners and stuff. And mid corner, they looked pretty good. Um, but shocker, I think, was the Richie Escalante thing. Like I think he what finished P4, I think. Um,
I you we underestimate we underestimate how driven Richie is.
dude, yeah.
I don't think. I mean, there could be a piece of rebar for the rear shock, and he's going to get after
Oh,
it.
for sure. Well, I'm just saying, like the bikes, that particular team's
Yeah.
bike performance has been pretty shit, basically, right? And in spite of that, Richie still was able to, roll up the sleeves a bit and get some, and it was impressive to see.
It was great, and honestly, his bike sounded fantastic. Like if you listen to the electronics, it sounded
Yeah,
like they had things a little bit more under control with that. And Richie was
yeah.
riding very, very well.
Like high
And
five to the data guy, probably, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, Richie has interesting riding where if you've watched him over the years in the 600, he has a feel. He likes the bike to be able to rotate on entry. He wants the bike. He wants to be able to feel the bike back in, but not too
yeah,
far. But
yeah,
he wants to be able. He's got a very his brake graph is such that he wants to be able to have the bike backed in. As he releases the brake, it catches up, and of course, have the bike pointed at that point. And if he gets that feeling, he's a weapon. I mean,
yeah,
he's a weapon. He had it. You watch it in turn one. You could watch it in five.
yeah.
I mean, he had it going on.
Yeah, it's good to see. I've been a fan of his since Benny was going down to Mexico to beat him up. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's pretty cool watching that guy make that progression, especially considering, he's been on that team for a minute now, and it's Superbike's not exactly unicorns and rainbows or whatever, right?
No, it's really tough. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, Superbike, the constant development that's going on. I mean, look how they went super fast again this year. And I had a little bit of conversation with Canby over the weekend, and they came into this weekend with not like high expectations, but they changed their expectation to we're here to get data. We're here to figure out what the bike's going to work on a track like this. So if you look at it, right, they progressed through the weekend
Yeah.
incredibly well. And again, if they keep working at this process methodically, I think they're gonna I think it's gonna be interesting as the year goes on for sure.
Yeah, I mean, after Road Atlanta, a lot of people were like, okay, let's stick a fork in the R1. It's done.
No, no way.
And then at Barber, not so much, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was the same way our team, quite honestly. I mean, we were all ready to sell our R6s after Road Atlanta, right? We are all ready to go put them in a dumpster and light them on fire. And we realized that we have a track that doesn't necessarily work well for this particular configuration. And it's like, look, guys, we got to get through this. We're gonna let's get through this. We'll get to Barber. It's going to be a little bit of a different story at Barber. Now, of course, we're going to Road America, and I'm going to get punched in the face again. But we got to get through those rounds.
Well, Stampoli did say something about Road America is that it's like you're already, it's not like Road Atlanta where the thing is stop and
Up
go,
and go. Yeah,
dyno pole. Like you're
yeah,
rolling
you're
already.
doing
So
you're coming off third gear corners.
you might have a better shot there than you did at Road Atlanta, right?
Accurate, yeah, because you're starting from a higher speed, right? So you
Yeah,
don't have that run through the gears
yeah,
that you would in a normal bike. And just sidebar, I just did 5 days up at the Ridge, cars and bikes on Sunday.
yeah.
We had our track time group, and I got to ride a client of mine's got a Daytona 765, super fun bike, and so he's had it stock, and he finally got some mapping done on the 765, and I can compare that data to a Graves bike, Graves R6, and a Graves ZX6, and off the low speed corners, that Triumph will punch those bikes in the face. Coming off a higher speed corner, not so much. So to that point that Richard had, that's exactly right. It is definitely more specific to the type of corner.
Hmm. Okay, so the other thing in Superbike was I know anybody that was watching saw the Ducati wiggle, right? My goodness, like, you know, it's no secret, not a huge fan of the number two. But god damn it, that dude was hanging on for dear life. That thing was shaking so violently down all the straights. I was like, it looked like Marco Melandri a few years ago in World Superbike, on both the Ducati and the Yamaha.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's no doubt that he could. There's no doubt that he could ride, right? We know
Yeah,
that,
totally.
and actually, I still think that he's probably one of the most talented, naturally talented
Dude,
people
he's
in the
that
paddock.
generation's Anthony Gombert,
100%, right?
right?
So now, I think when you go to Road Atlanta and you look at what kind of track that is versus what the bike offers, my guess is they had very little time with the bike. It was
Right.
probably very close to as delivered, shut up and ride it. And depending on whether how much input the rider had on wanting to change some of the things, yeah, the bike was not happy. But of course, it accelerated really well. And it could stop really well, and it took can be a while to get by him.
Yeah.
In race two, I think it was. So yeah, I mean, but the bike was obviously not very, very happy. Yeah, especially as the tires went off.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it just looked like a fucking handful, man. I was just like, dude, I wouldn't want to be riding that.
I think Road America is going to be interesting for that bike. Meaning, we had Road Atlanta where the bike did very, very well. We had Barber where the bike did not do so well. I think Road America is going to be a little bit telling to see if the bike steps up or if it stays back a little bit. If it stays back a little bit, I think they're going to have a tough time.
So let's talk about Road America a little bit. I know it was big talk over the summer last year and the last fall that I guess they were doing a repave. So they'd done the full repave, and I've heard mixed things about the surface. Have you heard anything?
Yeah, I have. I heard it's pretty darn smooth, but I've heard the grip is not great. So
Yeah.
I talked to some car people, and they said that yeah, it feels great, but they were surprised that lap times weren't that good. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens when the bikes go there. Obviously, we have lap time goals. We've got obviously decades of data.
Right.
So it is going to be interesting to see what happens. And of course, as of today, we still don't know what our tire list is yet.
Right.
So we don't know what we're going to be running for tires there.
Or like, do you know how many laps are gonna? Because I mean, the lap count that you guys are gonna get is pretty minimal because the track's like what 4.5 miles or something crazy.
It is. I think it's what are we? I think we're 12 lap. I think we're like a 12 lap race or something like that. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because when I was actually looking at data today, when you look at like a run in queue, I mean, a run in queue is like maybe 4 flyers. That's it. Like that's half a queue. There's very little time. So this is one of the tracks that we actually do quite a bit of beforehand prep with our briefings. And meaning we have very little time. So we actually do part of our briefing that's based on getting up to speed very quickly. So especially at a track like that as such, I mean, there's 3 dyno pulls per lap, right? So then you're going into this crazy braking area. So we want our riders to be able to get up to speed very quickly. So getting your vision going, getting reference points, literally reference points for your reference points. So that way they can hit the gate, hit the first or second lap at speed. And that way they're not having to kind of warm up. And we also do we're going to be doing some extra vision drills before they ride on the bikes too, to make sure our eyes are up to speed.
So you want to elaborate on that vision stuff?
It's vision stuff.
Yeah,
We don't
vision
have enough,
drills. Like,
we don't have enough time we don't have enough time to talk about vision.
give me the cliff notes, man. Fuck.
I mean, vision's one of like my pet projects. Got some pretty cool stuff coming out later on with vision. We did some vision tracking, like wear the eyeglasses with tracking.
Okay.
That was pretty cool. So I'll show you those videos.
Well, I mean, look, I told you at Podium Club, right? I talked to Wyatt.
Yeah.
Because I was on the struggle bus and I was like, dude, what the fuck? And Wyatt was like, dude, what you need to do is ride through here and say to yourself in your head, eyes, eyes, eyes,
Yep.
and like picking them up, And I was like, get the fuck out of here. And I did that. Like I did that in a few other things and dropped like 2 seconds. Like
Yeah. So
so
let's
like
just, yeah, just to kind of linger here for a minute. So with vision is your vision is basically the encompassing thing, and you use your eyes to see. Your eyes take in the information that feeds your brain. Well,
yes.
without eyes or vision, you don't have anything. You don't have any place to put your technique. So that, and if you don't have a place to put your technique, then you don't have a place to focus. So that's why in our fundamentals, it's the second fundamental, vision and focus. And we work really hard on our vision. And so if people want like the silver bullet of the sport, the silver bullet of the sport is your vision and your front brake.
Yes.
That's your silver bullet of the sport. So those are the things that you really focus on. But with vision is it starts with we need to have our reference points. So we need to be able to know where to put our eyes and when to put our eyes. That's why we have eye timing. And so before we go to a place like Road America, we identify essentially there's very little time obviously when you're going that pace, so we really work on turn-in points and we work on exit references, because if we have an exit reference and a turn-in reference, we can connect everything in the corner based on those things. The caveat to Road America is yes, we have brake markers as well, because the brake markers become a big, you have time to concentrate on your brake marker, turn one, and turn five, even 6, 8.
It's lucky you guys are just on a little 600 instead of, a big bike.
Oh my God, big bikes are frightening. I mean, they're so fast. They're just
Yeah.
frightening. But yeah, I mean, but still the 600s are, still 160 miles an hour, right? It's not like they're slow there. So yeah, I mean, so on the vision, I mean, what it boils down to is that during our briefings, we're identifying the reference points so we know them ahead of time. And we send out briefings that have these. We look for it again with us. We're going to, on our track walk, we're going to be identifying items that get our eyes, we call them bridge references, to bridge to our references. So basically we're pre-framing what we're looking at before we get there, so we don't get somewhere surprised. We don't want to
Okay.
get, yeah, you don't want to get to a corner surprise, right? You want to be able to have every tool available to you to do what you need to do. So, and then warm up is actually pretty simple. We basically play catch. Playing catch with whether it's a ball or whatever, you can then walk in circles, but different
I've
hands.
seen CJ doing that at the school with Nick before.
Well, it actually turns on receptors, right? It has all of the receptors that you want: eye speed, depth perception. You have to move your eyes, left and right balance. So the simple act of playing catch is great. And then CJ also has some glasses, special glasses that he wears that help these things out. So
Special glasses, like
special glasses.
no more elaboration than
No,
that,
no,
huh?
no. They're. I mean, we work with our vision performance guy, and they're just special glasses that basically have quadrants, and the quadrants blink at different rates, and
Oh
they
shit.
help. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So it's
Try.
sort of like I know that Ethan, I can't even pronounce his last name, but Ethan, he's like that coach guy that talks about stuff like that, and he sets up the colored like CNC shit on the table and has Matt and whoever else. I know Cam P, I think's done it. I don't know if Jake does it, but they're hitting the based on whatever color blinks. Is that similar to that concept?
No, I mean no. I mean I understand. I understand what they're doing, which is you're intaking and you're reacting and you're having to move, and I get all that. In this case, what it does is it shuts off different quadrants at different milliseconds. So if you want to work on depth perception, it'll shut off the bottom side of your eye, so you have to look out more. And then what happens is it actually shuts the bottom off, and then the actual glasses itself goes dark for, so that the glass is completely dark for say 2 milliseconds, 2/10 of a second, and then it comes back on where your eye has to refocus.
Okay.
So it's so your eye then is getting trained to refocus and see things. So we have that, and then it works on left to right. I mean, there's a million things that you can do with them, but basically what it does is it gets your eyes warmed up, and depending on what you're trying to work on, you can change how you want the glasses to work.
Hmm. That's that's really something. Like I gotta maybe get me a set of those.
Depending on what I'm going to be doing with some of my next steps with my stuff, the vision, I could run schools on just vision training.
Really?
No, easily.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
That's so I hear there was a track day there at Road America this past weekend. Um, Somebody told me they had a waiting list of 130 people. I was like, get the fuck out of here, man.
That's
That's
either a
awesome.
track as you're a track day provider, I'm a track day provider. That's either a dream or a
It,
nightmare.
I mean, it's a dream because you do pretty well, but then it's also a nightmare because every day people are like, "Did I get in? Did I get in? Did I get in?"
Well,
You
the
know?
bottom line is you're going to piss off 130 people.
Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess I've heard some stuff about the event and stuff, but like, man,
I didn't hear anything about it. I just have heard from the car. I do a lot. I've done actually quite a bit of car coaching on the new Surface. So the people that I've talked to, again, they say, yeah, it's pretty darn smooth, but the lap times just have not been there. So
yeah.
we'll find out.
Yeah, I'm curious, like if the super bikes are gonna break lap record or they're not gonna be even close. From I heard some stuff in testing that was like, you know, I mean, it's like through the grapevine. It's not like they had my
What'd
laps
you
plugged
hear?
in.
Spill it.
I heard
Come
like two. I
on.
heard like 220s. I was like, get the fuck out of here. Like, I know that Jake was doing like what 09s.
Yeah.
So I mean that's pretty far off. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously
The
our
car
team
guys
wasn't out there, but
yeah, the car guys that I've talked to, none like in like prototype stuff, but some GT stuff, and their lap times have been off quite a bit. So
yeah,
I don't know. We'll see.
yeah, I guess.
Weather's looking great, so that part of it is wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is when the superbikes show up, it's just game over, right? I mean, it's like it's on, and the guys at the pointy end are gonna do
It's the same for
this thing,
everyone.
right?
Yeah, it's
So
the same for everyone, and it's the people that can figure it out.
yeah,
There you go.
yeah, that's where the data shit comes in, right? I mean,
Yep.
and if you can look at those squiggly lines and figure out what that means, it's
Figure
gonna
out what the
help.
rider. Yeah, figure out what the rider wants, what the rider's doing
Yeah,
versus the
yeah.
bike. Those are the guys who are going to win.
So there's a couple of comments on here. That Kirk dude, he's got a couple of things, but he said he says that teach me patience, sensei. And then he also says talk more about the benefits of Blaze Plus for slow guys like him. It works. And then reference points and vision stuff. So man, like he's dominating.
Yeah,
I just
yeah. This is
and
this.
mind you, like I'm scrolling down to get to him, so I'm just like, here's all the shit that Kurt asked.
Well, okay. So what do you want? Yeah, what do you want me to? You want me to answer those? I can go through
Yeah,
them pretty
let's go
quick.
down those first.
Yeah.
Like
So
the
I
patience
think
stuff.
just the patience one is understanding. Okay, so what is the sport all about? The sport is all about getting to and from the slowest point in the shortest amount of time. Done. Right. That's what the sport is about. It doesn't matter if you're on a 300 or a super bike. That's the sport. So it's realizing that there's a place that the motorcycle needs to be slowed and pointed so you can accelerate for a longer period of time. And we one of the things we talk about is we literally have to ask the rider, we have to tell the rider, you have to give yourself permission to go slow at the right time so you can accelerate at the
Yeah,
right, and because and I know Richard's talked about this a gazillion times,
yeah,
it's slower than you think.
yeah.
I mean, you even talked about that, right? Your mid corner speed was too fast,
Oh,
right?
100%. In a couple
Yeah.
areas, a couple of spots, like that Buttonwillow,
So
for instance. The last corner, the sunrise and sunset, both of those. Like I'm
yeah,
always guilty of overcooking both of those things. And
yeah. So your slow point's not in the right spot, so you can't. So
right,
to that, we could talk about that forever. But on the patience part is understanding that there's a place where the bike has to be slowed and pointed, and you got to you understand where that is, and you got to give yourself permission to go slow there. That is literally the central hub of what we're trying to do.
yeah,
But once you've established that, you establish your exit, and then from there you establish your entry. Too many people put the entry first,
yeah,
exits first every time.
yeah. Well, we always talked about walking the track backwards, right? And we're like, okay, I want to end up
Yeah.
here, so let's take a backward step and figure out what do we gotta do to get there, starting back here.
Yeah, I mean, your entry is dependent on where you want to exit.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
all right, what else did he ask?
Oh, something about the Blaze Plus.
Yeah, so
What's
I
Blaze
don't.
Plus?
Yeah, okay, so I don't want to be an infomercial, but you know what I mean? If people, I would love to coach people. I'd love to be at your track day, and I'd love you to pay me my day rate to go do that. That would be wonderful. But that's not, there's not a lot of people that are in a position to be able to do that plus time and all that. So how do you get professional coaching out to the masses? And I teamed up with Dion von Molke. Dion is a Rolex 24-hour winner, Sebring 12-hour winner. I mean, the guy can drive a car. He's young, been driving a long time. He started a program called Blaze, and Blaze is an online coaching format. And they do cars, bikes. They also do, I think they do volleyball, soccer. And so it's a way for you to submit your videos to professional coaches for a very cheap price and get critiqued. But it's more than that, right? So like today I did 4 video reviews today, right? People submit their videos, I watch them, I take notes, and then they get either a 10 to 20 minute return of me starting, stopping, drawing on the video and sending it back. They have something to work on. It goes in their personal library. But it's more than that. I think they have literally 100 videos in their library of me and another guy, Colin Mullen, doing these monthly calls. Like, you want to know about the slow point of the corner, for instance? There's 2-hour-long videos on the slow point of the corner. You want to know about data? There's data 101, there's data 201, there's data 301. So when you sign up, and yeah, sorry, it costs money. Sorry, that's how it goes. But it's cheap. It's like $365 a year. You get access to the library, you get access to the monthly calls, but then you get 2 free coaching sessions. So it's a great program for a very inexpensive price where you get online coaching, but you also get access to all of this stuff. So yeah, it's great.
Bearded Jixer just commented that he needs Coiner Plus.
Yeah, I don't think that has anything to do with motorcycles, though, unfortunately.
I mean, look, I do one-on-one stuff with people, and I've actually talked to that guy. I think we're trying to just get scheduled together to do a one-on-one thing. But like you said, I mean, your time available to do that kind of thing is it has to fit in that box.
I'm contracted with CJ for the year, but not only that, I mean, otherwise, I mean, I'm booked typically a year and a half in advance. So, I mean, I'm already working on 2024 stuff if people want one-on-one, right? That's how far booked. So,
Wow.
but how do people get access to what I do? And
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be clear, the Blaze stuff, I don't really make any money from it. But what it is I want people, I basically don't want there to be an excuse that you can't get professional coaching for a very cheap price.
Right.
And within that, I'm building other coaches that can be able to do this as well. So my
Yeah.
goal is to have other coaches to be able to do this. So that's part of my hidden agenda of the stuff that I'm doing.
Yeah, maybe I'll have to dig into some of that. I know that I still kind of work for Nick, the Champ School stuff, and I know they've got their Champ
Yeah,
U
they
thing.
camp you. Yeah, yeah.
And dude, the Champ U thing, like, the last couple of schools I've taught at, most of the students had been through the Champ U. And so, the morning stuff for the first day, dude, most of that stuff is already like super crammed into their
Yep.
skulls before we even get started. And it's like
Yeah.
it's like giving them a jump start to the whole thing.
I think, yeah, I mean, I honestly look at where our society is at, right? We're just so much of a more online based society. And I think that's where it is.
Yeah.
And I think them having that word out is absolutely fantastic. My modeling is a little bit different. I'm more individualized, right? I want to work more individual. And that's really what the Blaze program is like. I've got, I don't know, I think I have around 45 or 50 monthly clients
Yeah.
that are in my deal. And so we build a library for them. So as we do video reviews, it goes in their library. They can review it at any time. And if they even want to buy like an hour Zoom with me, they can buy an hour Zoom with me and we can go over whatever their plans are. So it really is a cool way of getting it. And I know the Champ U is all obviously pre-recorded stuff. This
Right.
is not. This is
This is
more
not that.
individualized. Well, I mean, I think they're doing a good job with it. I think it's fantastic having this information out there. Again, my model's a little bit different than theirs, but that's why we live in the society we do. It's great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it I think some of that stuff can add in and make some of the stuff I'm about to talk about a little bit better as far as weird shit that you see at the track day from people, you know. So, like I had two weird shit things happen at our last event, okay? One of them ended up putting one of my OG guys on the ground.
Oof.
Yeah, Gil Ramos.
Really? Oh my
Dude,
God.
poor Gil. He's like 60 something, man. And,
Welcome to my
I
world. Yeah.
think it was in the B group. And, he's out there. He goes through the sweeper, right? And there's a dude, you could, like, Cali Photography caught the whole sequence, basically. And then there's some video. And, man, like, he goes into the sweeper, he tips in, and he's in a group. The guy behind him decides to go under him right before the last bit, right before the first S, clips his bars on the way by, yanks the bars out of Gil's hand. Gil's on the ground. Then the guy behind Gil, who's looks like he's got plenty of room, but he panic braked and kind of
Yeah.
endoed.
Ah,
So
man.
he's on the ground now. And then the rider behind that guy, um, Dukes of Hazards over the guy. Like, the weirdest thing, and it's like if you look at it from the start, it's one rider. All he had to do is wait 15 seconds, and then the pass would have been fine. Everybody would have been cool, but because that person couldn't wait 15 seconds.
We like
Oh,
at our
and they didn't fall down. That person.
they never do. So at our track day company, right? I'm co-owner of Track Time up here in Washington, and our model's a little bit different. We have less people per group. We charge a little bit more, and we hope to have a little bit more elevated experience. And we had a great weekend. This our opening weekend. It was a great weekend. A little too full in my opinion, but we were sold out on coaching, which was great. But yeah, I mean, we have
By the way,
very
Bearded Jixer says, "Dude, you got to win the track day."
well. You win the track day and you cause problems. It's a one-way conversation.
Yes.
And I mean, that's the thing is that it's a track day. It's not a race. We want people to haul ass, right? If you have the opportunity for lap time, freaking get after it. Wonderful. But
Right.
realize that if you're jeopardizing other people's trajectories, if you're altering their lines, you're pissing people off.
Right.
That's not why we're here. We're here to ride motorcycles, enjoy your life, enjoy riding a performance machine. And if a lap time comes, hell yeah.
Yeah.
So we have got actually our passing rules are actually super lenient, except there's a little bit of caveats with that. And we've got this is one of the things I learned from Dale Kiefer. I love Dale, which is the first time we'll have a two-way conversation with you. If we have to have a second conversation with you, you're leaving.
That's fair.
It's pretty much that's the case, and and it works pretty well.
Yeah, I
We
mean,
did
we've actually talked about, Nick posted something up about the passing rules, right? And how, we still have some of the old school passing rules where it's like, in the beginner group, there's no passing on the inside. And, I've had some discussion with the Track Days crew about it, about what he's saying about parallel coming to or away from the corner. And that doesn't mean you can't pass on the inside. It just means that, you brake for the person in front of you. You brake for the person in front of you pass for the person in front's comfort zone, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, so to that point, I do a lot of car days. Car days have different passing rules for every run group. It's insane. I mean, it's insane. I struggle with how they do some of the passing rules. It's very difficult. But yeah, ours are very similar, and I'm glad that Nick is one of the few people early on that has been a champion for that, and I think that's
Yeah.
great. But our rules are very simple. If the rider's coming towards you, there's no pass. It's pretty much that simple. We talk more about the exit.
Right.
Riders coming towards you on exits, which is the big problem.
Yeah.
But it's as simple as pass for the other rider's comfort. Thank you, Nick. And then the other one is if they're coming towards you, there's no pass. Simple. So if you want to go
If you're
around
on the
somebody,
inside and the person starts to tip in, sorry, it's
you're
late.
done.
Wait.
Now, that doesn't mean you can't go around the outside of somebody and they're parallel with you.
Yeah,
Knock yourself out. Go for it. But if they're coming towards you, there's no pass.
that's all right. Hopefully the TrackDaz crew is watching this crap.
And
So,
it's very simple. It's very simple, and it's that way for all the groups.
so the other thing, I'm not going to name the dude's name, but it's pretty uncharacteristic for this guy. He's a super experienced rider. He comes out on a variety of equipment. I've been seeing him around for a few years now, several years now. And the thing is, I see him. We go out. This guy, and he goes out and apexes turn 2 from the pit, which is like a gigantic no-no. The Danny Farnsworth sizzling 400-pound enema thing kind of comes to mind. So I'm just like, okay, so I'm following him through, and I'm already like making note that I'm gonna pull him off for that. And I watch him, and he actually stands up one of my guys right before the wheelie bump, and I'm like, man, that's like a sketchy pass anyway. I'm like, bro. So I come off. It takes me 3 laps to finally can get him to exit the racetrack, and I'm like, bro, what and he, instead of taking the one-way conversation, he turns it in. He's like, that's pretty rich coming from you. And I'm like, that's the wrong thing to say to me while at my event. I'm like, name one instance, and he couldn't, clearly. So I took his sticker, and we had a conversation about it afterwards, and he was quite a bit more accepting that he fucked up that time. But it was just pretty weird to see an experienced dude just disregard everything and just send it, And I'm like, it's pretty aggressive for that guy, Like, it's out of his character. I even told him, I was like, dude, I've never seen you ride that way. Like,
It's interesting because I think there's still a big disparity between track day organizations on how this works. I think,
yeah,
there are some groups that are just, they have passing rules, but they have obviously very low tolerance for bullshit. And there's other ones that it's like, it's motorcycle riding. That's how it is.
it's supposed to be
Right.
fun, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So yeah, until you see your buddy freaking, flowing out in a helicopter with 2 broken legs from a bad pass. So
Right.
I
Thankfully,
think
Gil was unhurt, by the way, just earlier.
that's good.
But
That's
yeah.
good. But yeah, I mean, we don't have, I don't know. I've seen enough people. I've been around long enough. I've seen enough people hurt or killed.
Yeah.
And I think that people don't recognize the consequences.
Yeah.
And passing happens to be the number one issue. So we're going to work on that. And if
Yeah.
there's they don't like our rules, go ride somewhere else. That's perfectly
Right.
okay. We that's what you want to do. That's
I mean,
wonderful.
look, nobody's perfect, right? So,
Nope.
I mean, you could even watch my YouTube videos. Like, you'll see, like, I'll be on my Superbike thing coming up on people, and I'm like, then you just roll out and wait and come around the corner and, rip past. And, um, I'm always cognizant of that, even when I was riding at other people's days, because I kind of have this like X on my back, and
Welcome to my world.
yeah, bro. Like, so I would always wait, even when I was doing the SoCal track day stuff at Chuckwalla. I mean, dude, it was such a vast array of skill set on track that if you're gonna go and try to work on stuff, like, I started just focusing on like a couple of corners,
Yep.
and I have applied that for over a decade, easily.
And we're really amenable. It's like if you want to go do something, like you want to like ask us, we'll put you at the front of the group and you can go, you can have a couple laps. You want to wait? If you want to wait till the group is gone, we'll launch you then. And we try to work with people. If they've got a request, we'll work it out. But it's tough.
Yeah, so Ernie's like, yeah, come on, Dustin. Next thing you know, you're gonna have a stop on the track for a red flag. I'm like, I mean, that's kind of like a 2004 thing for me, but I know that when we go to Thunder Hill next month, I think Thunder Hill kind of makes that the case. I know that's kind of a hard rule there, except for AFM. And the reason for that is neither of the tracks have like massive amounts of access roads. You know, and every other track that we go to in SoCal, there's all kinds of access roads where you can pick something up and not even stop the session sometimes. But at places like the West track at Thunderhill or even the big track, there's not really a lot of access roads,
No,
right? So they
no.
they kind of force everybody to stop on track. And it's an old school thing and you just got to like do it right. You know, don't fuck that up. Does that make sense?
I mean, each track has their nuance, and you got to play by the rules. That's the way it is.
So RP Amazing says he's sorry he's late, Ken, but RP Amazing. What about fighting in the tech line? Dude,
Yeah,
is that like
so
an inside story with you
it
guys?
is an
Like,
inside story. I mean, I know. Hi, Chris. How are you? Yeah, it's really funny because I do quite a few days in Jersey, and I've been hit like on track. I've been hit multiple times by riders in Jersey, and the riders in Jersey have a little bit of a different attitude. There's a ton of fast guys there for sure, but their attitude is, and Dustin, you'll empathize with this, is when they leave in the morning to go to the track day, they're like, "Honey, I'm going racing today," right? I mean, that's
no
their
shit. For a
oh
track
yeah,
day.
oh yeah, but it's racing, and so
Okay.
it's very very aggressive, and I've unfortunately had multiple clients taken out and seriously hurt by being hit. It's definitely a thing. The last days that we were actually did some testing there last month, and we were in the garage, and somebody rolled up, and I guess somebody didn't like the way somebody else looked at him, and a guy on a V4R basically jumped off his bike and but basically
What?
dropped the bike, but somebody caught it and was ready to have a intimate discussion with their fist with somebody that didn't look at him correctly.
That's wow. So Jersey, huh?
Yeah. He did,
Okay.
by the way, that person did not ride that day.
Well, I would imagine not.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Correct.
I mean,
So,
I've been on the receiving end, even at my own event, man. Like I had this group of dudes kind of circle me, and I didn't know it at the time, but you know, bunch of my staff are or were at the time active duty Marines, like including hats, you know. So I'm in this hornet's nest, not realizing that I was having the wagon circled around me, and I was basically kicking these dudes out. I was like, "Look, you guys gotta go." And I gave them their money back, and the dude wads up the money and throws it in my face. That went over real
great.
well.
Great.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
mean,
I get it. No, and the thing about the Jersey thing is it's that honestly, the days that we go to, they're wonderful, and they've gotten so popular because they're run well.
yeah,
They don't take a lot of riders. They're awesome, and
yeah,
so you get people that are like, I want to go to this, and then because it's open track and all that, that people are hauling ass, and you get this a little bit of a different clientele. And they're actually priced really well too. So it's a great environment, but it's attracted a group that want to haul ass.
yeah. I mean, I've done a couple of those like 30-minute session days where there's like 30 riders per group max, and they were a little bit more expensive, but the reality was that it just didn't sell, you know.
Yeah.
It was hard to, you know, like I used it as kind of a loss leader to the Friday event kind of thing, but I
Yeah,
think
actually, I'd
it,
love your opinion on this, and I've never asked you this question, but I actually did a car day earlier this year, and they oversold it. So what they ended up doing was they ran 4 15-minute groups, but less. And I gotta say, it was pretty damn good.
really,
Where I would take 15 minutes, and I'd love to hear comments on this. I would take 15 minutes with darn near open track rather than 20 minutes stuck in traffic. And it was 4 15-minute groups. So you think about how many people it took out of the group, and there was more. It was honestly, it was pretty damn good.
dude.
Anyway,
My thing is like I'm down for just riding motorbikes, you know, like
yeah,
at whatever. If it's 15 minutes, cool. If it's 20 or 30 hour, right? If I put gas in, I can run some bitch out of gas.
there you
We're
go.
good, you know. So I mean, and here in SoCal, like you have a lot of opportunity for all of that, you know, with the no sessions deals out at Chuckwalla monthly, and then 20-minute race practice days or regular track days, or two group semi-private date, like or the private days that we do at Buttonwillow
Yeah,
with the test. We split it with the car guys. There's like 3 to 5 dudes on track, and that's it. I don't know. Like, I like having a few more people than that, so I could play with my. It's more fun when you're not by yourself.
agreed. Yeah,
Um, but
agreed.
I know that the guys when they're Cam and Jake, when they're testing, they're working on shit. So it's better for them, and for whatever reason, they're able to just do that and go 10 tenths right out of the bat, where regular folks maybe takes a little bit longer than that to kind of get their eyes up and everything.
What questions do we have? We have any good questions?
Well, let's see here. Yeah, let's see here. How about your thoughts on two bikes? If you're gonna look for a bike, Short Guy Moto asks this, and he says, "What are your thoughts on buying the new Cowie 400 thing versus the RS 660?" I mean, they're kind of completely different bikes, dude.
Yeah,
Like,
they are. I don't have a ton of time on the 660s. I have some time on them. I really like the platform. So we can talk about the platform, and then we can talk about Italian reliability. I think they're two different topics. Uh, but the platform itself,
yeah,
I love it. I mean, it's a joy to ride. It turns well. It responds really well to modifications. I think it's a fun bike. It has like just enough power to keep you really entertained. I really like it. I don't know much
One
about the.
one thing about the 660, they do have the shock mounted directly on the swing arm, so there's no linkage there. So that might vary people's normal, quote unquote, normal suspension setup, right?
Yeah, I mean, so we did testing this last week on some of the KTM 890s that are linkageless. Like I did a bunch of development work back in the day for Buell on the linkage as well. I actually really like it. I think there's actually an extra layer of feel. It's just a more direct setup is a little bit harder, quite honestly, but it I think it has a more direct feel between your hand and the tire. I'm actually quite a big fan of it. It's just I think
Yeah,
setup's
or sorry, Bearded Jixer says his buddy has a 660 and says nothing but issues.
okay.
Everybody has that.
I
Everybody
said
has that
Italian
buddy.
reliability was a different topic.
Yeah, yeah,
So I mean that type of platform I really like. And then I don't know much about the 400 other than talking to Chuck Graves about it.
yeah.
And I think that bike, I think that bike's going to be a winner, and I think that bike's going to be a ripper. I mean, just the numbers that they're getting out of it already are
They're
crazy.
getting like 80 horsepower out of the thing or something crazy, right? 90?
It's going to
Are
be
they
a
getting
ripper.
100 out of that thing?
It's I think that's where it's going to end up within a year.
So it's like the new 400 is like the 600s from 20 years ago,
Yeah,
basically. Kind of gutless on the bottom, just like the
they're
600s
going
from.
to be dude. They're going to be
Yeah.
rippers. So I think that bike's going to be good. But of course, now
What do you
you're going to
think is going to happen with it? Like, like race class? Like, put your like. I mean, thankfully, I'm no longer government, so I could talk shit, right? And I think I told you about this. Like Chuck Graves was hitting me up about it, and I was like, "Yeah, dude, you should go in the 400 class. Like, whatever. Let me talk to the team." But what Chuck didn't know, and I couldn't give him like a solid answer, is that I was on my way out. I was punching out. And so, you know,
I'll
being a race club owner and trying to cram that thing in, number one, you're gonna make a bunch of people cry. They're probably already crying, and then, but you're gonna make the ones that go out and buy the thing stoked. So,
I think from a racing standpoint, when you look at like well, let's look at MotoAmerica. I think that when you have the Junior Cup and then you've got Twins and then you've got 600, I think there's the gaps between some of them are a little big, especially on the Junior Cup side. So Junior Cup to say Twins, and of course the problem with Twins is it's a bike development class
right.
as well as it is a ride. That's another
Yes.
layer that's an issue. I would love to see potentially the platform for Junior Cup maybe change to this type of a platform.
Yeah.
Of course, they're the only one that makes it, so then it kind of becomes a spec thing where now you can
Yeah.
at least have different bikes. But if that became a little bit more of a spec class, I think that would help close the gap between some of these things because the gap right now is is pretty large in my opinion.
I mean, I see that and I'm like, dude, are we gonna see like a resurgence of the late '80s, early '90s where everybody has a 400 that's badass?
Dude, I'll tell you what, I rode, I mean, it's not a ZX 400 or whatever the heck it is. But I mean, I don't know. I love riding the little bikes like that. I actually did some sessions on our little rental Ninja 400s this weekend. I love that idea. It gives you time to think. They're a wonderful training tool.
Hmm. Well, let's see. Tim Power says he was just discussing this as a recent track walk, trackway. Consensus was 15-minute sessions would be okay at a reduced rate, i.e., $150 day versus $190 day for 3 groups. Hmm.
But you're getting less people in your group.
Right. Yes.
And the track rental doesn't change.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I get it. I get what he's saying, but the benefit is you've got less people in your group. And again, that's why I'm asking. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, that's like the secret sauce, like I've had this discussion many times, like when you're hosting I've hosted many race weekend Fridays, and what happens is the riders that are at the super pointy end of the lap time, they end up being less than stoked because they get traffic, right? But then it's like, bro, there's 4 groups here, and this is the lap time breakdown. Like it's just like race practice. You get traffic there too.
Yeah,
Um,
I did a time attack in my car a few weeks ago, and it was basically broken down to, yeah, and we actually had, it was actually interesting format. The time attack was 2 10-minute warm-ups, but then you had 30 minutes, so you actually only had 20 minutes between sessions. So then you had 4 10-minute runs, only 20 minutes apart. You had to have your crap together. So, I mean, that was a very fast-paced day, and then they broke up the other groups with a little bit longer sessions. So yeah, you sat out a little bit, but then you had a little bit of a longer session, and then the afternoon it all went back to normal. But I actually really enjoyed that format where
yeah,
it was 10 minutes of no effing around, because again, it was a time attack. And you only had 20 minutes in between sessions to get your
right.
crap together. So I enjoyed that quite a bit.
You know what? This is actually a good question from Bearded Jixer. So at a track day, in your opinion, is it better to work on certain sectors at a time or break it down even smaller and work on a corner or two at a time? Since the track day can be a little crowded sometimes.
So it's dynamic is the thing, right?
Yeah,
Because I mean, Dustin, you know this, right? It's like, first of all, you don't know how the day is going to be each day,
right.
right? You don't know, and even session to session's a little bit different.
Yeah,
So I think the way to look at that is have a central plan. Like say you're going to work on your brake release, or let's say you're going to work on taking weight off of your inside arm.
right,
I'm just making that up. But you can go, okay, great. This corner's free. I'm going to see how far I can carry the brakes into it.
right,
I'm going to see how taking weight off my inside arm affects X, Y, Z.
right.
I'm going to work on reference points. Yeah, and so I think it's having a central focus point. Now in a track day environment, there's times where you could actually sometimes have 2 on opposite ends of the track.
Yeah,
Maybe you're going to work on brake release on one and body position, say, on another one. And it's just dynamic with it. So to your point, I would say sectors are difficult because you don't know what you're going to get. But I think corners are 100% the way to go.
yeah. Like I'll just give you like what I'm doing when I'm out there at my events on my R1. Um, you know, there's a couple of different mindsets I have. So if I'm working on something where I want to really get to the corner, the slowest corners where you need to brake hard from a high rate of speed, I'll try to plan my tire warmer pulling so I'm in the front, so I get clear track for first maybe couple
Mhm.
laps. Then I could work on that. But if I don't get clear track, what I do is I'll go and I'll work on the shit that I fucked up on, you know? And what that means is like, okay, for this one session, I'm gonna work on um, I'm gonna work on being really accurate and being super patient at the slowest part of the corner.
Yeah.
For instance, getting onto the front straight and getting off the front straight. And then also, this is kind of weird, but I work on getting to the stick at the exit, like all the way. So My bike with the electronics the way they are, I can stick the thing coming out the corner pretty much, and the electronics just do their thing. And so if I'm not hearing the bike crackling and popping at the exit,
Stuttering,
I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
dude, so
You got room. You got
yeah,
room.
yep,
Yeah. So it's the same thing, right? I think it's having a theme or having an idea of what you want to work on, and then dynamically figuring out when you're going to be able to work on that on track. It depends. Like again, riding at the ridge or even button willow, right? You can look, for instance, you can come off, Lost Hills and look down towards the sweeper to see where if
yes,
there's a pack of riders, and
yes,
you're like, cool, I got a clear run through the S's,
yes,
right? So I'm going to work on X, Y, Z.
yeah.
So
Or you could see like three riders going down that little straight right there before the sweeper, before the S's, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna get a good drive out of here, and then I'm gonna go to the brakes and figure it out when I get there,
yeah,
right?
yeah, like turn one, right? Turn one, you can look all the way basically to turn three and see if there's a crowd there. So I
Yes,
mean,
yes,
and they're like, okay, cool, I can go work on X, Y, Z.
right. Yeah, that's all that stuff is helpful, dude. You gotta get in there and work on your stuff, man. And the thing is, every track day, like Ken said, every track day is different. I mean, we've had track days where it's like the A group is it's the ridiculously fastest A group ever.
Yep.
But then like at our last event that wasn't anywhere near a race weekend, the A group was like it's kind of like a race weekend Friday B group.
Yeah. Yeah. You just don't know. So
So talk a little bit about this. This is something that I see a lot at the track day. Like a lot of the drama happens in the middle group, the B group. And I equate that to, number one, lack of experience with the riders. And then also, they're kind of fast, but haven't quite figured out why yet. Do you want to elaborate on some of that?
So, I mean, to your point, yeah, the B group, intermediate group, whatever, they're typically the ones that are the biggest threat to themselves and
Right.
everybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're in the intermediate group, I mean, you've got good pace. I mean, you're going, right?
Yeah.
You're putting force into the bike. You're going at a good pace. But yeah, a lot of times it's really easy, even as a newer rider, to buy, a V4S or to buy a GSXR 1000, and you've got good tires and you can carry good pace, but be very sloppy about it.
Right.
And it's, again, our sport still lacks, it lacks the idea that it requires training.
Yeah.
Instead, it still has this feeling of you got to man up and you got to be
The
tough.
swinging dick syndrome, is that what you're saying?
Pretty much. So I was being polite about it, but yeah, that's exactly it.
This is this show, man. Come
Yeah.
on.
But yeah, that's it. And so you can get away with lean angle and you can get away with swooping around,
Yeah.
and you end up being a danger to yourself and others. And yeah,
Right.
the intermediate or B group ends up being the biggest problem for that. Yeah, it can be it can be very difficult. But again, the way that we do it is we encourage coaching. We make coaching very accessible, very affordable. And then we offer control riders to do lead follow if they want it.
Right.
And if a control rider, just like you, control rider sees something that's a danger to themselves or somebody else, then we're going to have a chat.
Yeah, I mean, we call them staff dudes because I hate the term control rider. But yeah, I mean, we have all that available, and then I've actually make the 2-up ride thing available as well, mostly for beginners. But I mean, I've had a few B group guys and a couple of A group guys come over as well because the mission of the 2-up isn't to scare the shit out of somebody. It's more of like, hey man, like maybe if you did it this way, it'd work out better for you.
Yeah, you're mimicking. I mean, I do a lot of 2-up rides as well, right? And so
Yeah, I've done one with you at Jersey.
oh God, yeah.
Between that and Scott Russell, I mean, Scott Russell's a little more fun, but
Yeah,
whatever.
mine are technique based. Mine aren't that fun. I mean, it's like
Yeah,
I'll say, so what are you working on?
yeah,
Or what do you want me to show you? And there's times where I'll actually do things wrong, and so what that. So
yeah,
again, a whole nother topic we could spend hours on is we have visual references. What's a 2-up ride about? It's about feel references.
right.
And so
Yeah,
I've got podcasts on feel references that go into this.
yeah.
Actually, my next Blaze talk is on feel references.
I tell them to
So
watch my hands too.
Oh, 100%. And so when you give a two-up ride, you're trying to replicate a field reference, and again, doing things wrong and then doing things right. You can see it, or
Right.
sometimes people just don't know like, what you think is 40%, say, brake pressure, is somebody else's 100%.
Correct.
They just don't know. So it's a good way of educating people and also finding out what's holding them back and then showing them how they can fix it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
So yeah, mine are boring, but they're
mine are now
educational.
too, man.
Yeah. I mean, if somebody wants, there's times if somebody wants me to haul ass, I'll haul ass. But
Yeah. I mean, I'll give somebody a spirited ride, but I'm not going to sit there.
spirited, I like that.
Yeah. Spirited ride. But I'm not going to go and send it with somebody on the back because all I can hear is I notch in the background, like, hey, D, the whole program's on your shoulders right now. Like DC, that's my Nick. Sorry. Sorry, Nick. But, it's like watching them, having them
I
watch my
mean, so
hands.
yeah,
That's
I
the
mean,
one thing I got out of the ride with Scott Russell. Scott Russell's ride was super exciting, right? But the thing is, because I knew who the fuck this guy was and who is, like the guy's like my hero. So the first thing I did is like I shifted my eyes to watch his hands, and ever since then, dude. And this has been what was that 2015 maybe?
yeah.
Ever since then, I still ride that way because I'm like, dude, Scott Russell's hands were so slow. Like that was the
Well, yeah. And here's a guy that, so Scott Russell has no patience in life, none, zero. But on a bike, he has the most patience out of all of us. And even Freddie was the same way. And we said this during the first, one of these that we did was Freddie. When I did the two-up rides with Freddie, that was literally a game changer for me because that was like, okay, that's who I want to be. That's what I want to do.
right.
And Freddie's deal was he was he went fast, but he wasn't in a hurry to go fast.
Right.
You just all of a sudden you just started hauling ass, and every motor control was deliberate, and
Yes.
it was just how he'd go to the brakes, and you're like, is he going? All of a sudden you build brake pressure, like you didn't go
Yeah.
to like. He'd be off the brake and he'd go to the throttle, like, is he on enough? And all of a sudden you'd go. And it's just everything was
Yeah.
very definitive and deliberate, and there was a process for everything. And I was like, that is what I want to do.
Yeah, I mean what you just said, right? The deliberate thing too. I mean, being on the back with Scott, going through that like what 789 complex at Jersey, and then
Yep.
the flick to 10 on the left. I was just
Oh
like,
yeah.
dude, like how much track he used up at the exit, and then also like how he would trail the brakes into 10. I was like, bro, that's
Yeah.
so good. And
Yeah.
then watching his
Yeah.
hand out the corner exit, his hand looked like it was barely moving.
That's right. But all of a sudden you're just getting launched back in the seat,
Yes.
but you can
Yeah.
barely see his hand move. It's
Yep.
yeah, incredible. Yeah,
Yeah.
the guys that do it so well, and that was again for me, that was an inspiration of that is what I want to aspire to be.
So, okay, there's a couple more questions. I mean, fuck, we're like an hour and a half already, man. That's
Yeah,
so weird.
we'll wrap. We're gonna do. I mean, we're doing a bunch of these. So
Yeah. Okay. So, Short Guy Moto wants to know, like, or he says more people should be training at the kart tracks. More track time and less risk. I ride the Supermoto at the kart track, and it's like good on-bike cardio for me, like to pick my eyes
So
up.
I've been criticized a bunch for people say, you know, well, you don't do the mini stuff. So you're like, what do you think about minis? And I think, well, I think minis are great in their own thing, but minis are, for instance, minis are 1% of the overall picture. So karting, I love kart tracks. I did a couple of the mini endurance races last year, right? And they were the most fun thing in the world. So I think, yes, riding two wheels, you can do all of this. It's just, what are you working on? So
Right.
you can do all the same things, right? You can do eyes, you can do bike placement, you can do brake pressure at turn in, you can take
Right.
away. I mean, so am I a fan of it? I'm a fan on any. I could take two garbage cans and throw them in the middle of the parking lot and have a track. So yeah, I don't anything with two wheels.
Yeah.
Bring it. So absolutely a fan of that, as long as you're understanding what skills you're applying it to. It's instead of just riding around. Riding around, it just enforces bad habits.
Um, apparently, Avi says that I took him on a two-up at Buttonwillow a couple weeks ago, and he's seeing Ken next week, and he'll tell you how slow I was. So there's
Good.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, but I know
Told you.
Avi's great, and if Avi learns something, then that's
Dude,
the
Avi
goal.
was cracking me up, man. Like that
He's
dude has
awesome.
this like deadpan sense of humor, and I was just like
He's
I
awesome.
was like, bro, you're from NorCal. Like I wasn't sure. Like,
He's awesome.
yeah. So it was fun. But okay, so okay, here's the. I'm gonna wrap with this one. This is a good one. Ernie's question. So, what's a good way to determine your foot and peg height for a tall dude like himself? He tends to drag his toe from time to time, and it's a little bit sketchy at times because he feel like it's gonna tuck the bike. It's gonna tuck the bike.
So there's a
Dude,
couple
I
of
drag
things.
my toes all the time, bro.
Yeah,
Like,
so I mean, there's actually two different things there. So like, what are the right ergonomics, and then why are you dragging your toes? Right? There's two different things there.
yeah,
So ergonomically, I've got a good podcast on that, and it's you really want your feet underneath of you, and you don't want to be. So if you look at it, I mean, Dustin, right? You ride a bicycle, and you've gotten a bike fit.
yep,
So when you get a bike fit, do they give you the right stem length first, or do they adjust your seat first?
seat,
Of course. So it's the same thing on a motorcycle, but typically we get on a motorcycle and you sit in the middle of the seat and you like put your hands on the bars and adjust everything, but yet that's actually never the position that you're in. So it's when you get on the thing, it's being in a position to replicate what you're doing in corners and in braking. But we want our feet underneath of us, and you don't want to be in a position where your hip angle is so closed off that you can't support yourself. So if your hip angle is too tight and you actually can't have enough weight to support you, then your pegs are too high. Most people with aftermarket pegs, you'd be surprised. Many of them are too high. So like Scott Russell is an example. Scott pegs all the way down. Like he wants to have his feet underneath of him, and he wants to be able to use that to support himself. So I think the big one on that is make sure your feet are underneath of you. And the other one is don't have such a compromised hip angle that you can't support yourself. So I think that's one.
yeah. I've kind of gone through up and down with the pegs before. I mean, Stamboli's like, Pridmore back in the day, man. The higher we raised his peg, the faster that dude went, right? And I've gone all the way up and back and fucked around, and Richard's got the cool peg holders that you can flip over, so you can get a little bit more height without changing where the peg supposedly is. Um, so it's just like a process, dude. Like you
Yeah,
gotta
I
work
mean,
on it.
for sure try stuff. Like, I mean,
They're adjustable, dude. You can
well,
move
so
it
here's what's funny.
back.
We were testing with Mazziotto. We actually had one foot peg on different on one side and the other, height wise. How is she going to know?
Yeah,
Right? He's like, you can do that?
yeah.
What? The foot peg doesn't know any different. So, I mean, so yeah, I mean, I've tried high on one side, low on another side, or forward or back, and it'll absolutely tell you in real time what's going on.
Ty Bankford says he always tries to make sure that he's got at least 90-degree knee angle because it makes him easier for him to move around. And mind you, Ty is a fucking tall dude. Like that guy's like what 6'4" or something,
Yeah,
maybe
but I mean,
taller.
to that point, right? If your knee is more than that, right, then it's very difficult to actually put weight on your feet.
Yeah,
So it
you don't want to
takes
be
weight
duck
around more.
walking on your bike, bro. Like,
You know.
right?
So, and then the other point that he made about there's a lot of things that if you're scraping your feet, there's a ton of things that can go on. Your foot could be in the wrong position, your heel's not engaged, you're not off the seat, where in the corner it is. There's a bunch of things that go
Right.
along with that. So,
Yeah, I mean, I drag my toe. My foot's like kind of on the outside of the foot peg,
yep,
and I'm out
I'm the
here,
same way.
and I'll drag the end of, So I just call the Alpine Stars dude and just have them send me toe sliders. I don't give a
Yeah,
shit. You
yep.
know, you gotta be careful. You could fuck your boots up, so you gotta be on it. But as long as you have the spare toe sliders, forget about it.
Let's put it this way: both CJ and Mazziotto, their foot pegs are in the lowest possible position of their rear sets.
Really? Okay, that's interesting. How about the seat height versus stock?
We've done a lot of ergonomics testing, right? We did different seats, we did different bars, different foot. We did a bunch of ergonomics testing in this off season, and we're using Maz has got a custom seat and a custom little tank extender. CJ doesn't like the tank extender, but we're using a custom Graves seat pan that has solved many problems for us.
Really?
Yeah. So, yep.
So you mean all riders don't just get on and ride the same shit?
It's really funny because
What?
that's that. It's really funny. Like you look at MotoGP and even World Superbike, completely custom ergonomics. I mean, everything is. I mean, everything is custom made to them and how they're going to basically fit on the bike. So yeah, this is an important topic of how you're positioning yourself on the brakes, how you're taking weight off your hands at turn in,
Yeah.
how you're supporting yourself in the middle of the corner, how you're able to pick up the bike.
Yeah.
It's a pretty big topic.
Yeah, clearly. And Ty says he likes having his pegs a little bit taller with higher seat heights, and he's able to be over the front more. It's like a rider preference thing.
It is. I
Yeah.
mean, everybody has a little bit of a thing there, and and honestly, that's okay. I mean,
Yep.
the motorcycle needs to be ridden a certain way, and
Yeah.
you need to be in a position to do it. You need to be you individually
Yeah.
with whatever body shape you are.
Yeah.
Have to be in a position to do that.
Well, Ken, you know what? It's been a fun chat, dude. I wish
I
you
know
the
we just sit
best of
here.
luck this weekend
What?
at Road America. I hope the boys whoop some ass and get on the box. Maybe, dude, maybe you can throw CJ a little box action this time.
I mean, inch by inch, that dude's coming. I
Yeah?
mean, there's people that are like, "Where did you come from?" And he's like, "Well, actually, I've always been here. It's just now I'm up here with you."
Nice. Nice. Well, right on,
So
man. We'll catch you on the next one,
awesome.
yeah?
Great. Sounds good.